Well, welcome to Jim's Table Topics, January 2020. Free speech or safe spaces. They can't coexist, as we'll find out in today's show. The fake news, the fake education, it's a tough sell. Here, gentlemen, we can see an ancient form of brainwashing used in the 21st century. A primitive but effective. And yeah, there you go. All roads lead to Ukraine. Make sure you use the right words when you describe it. And, if you like subpoena coladas and getting caught in the Ukraine. Yeah, they're all there, they're all caught. When are we going to hear the truth? And when are we going to see something positive about Trump? It just doesn't happen in this universe. Oh, now that he's impeached, is this when Republicans loot, destroy, and set things on fire? Is that just a Democrat thing? I'm only asking for a friend. Okay, the Americans are going to speak out about this, and this is a great show to do it. Welcome to 2020. It's an election year and a pivotal year. So let's get to the show. Free speech or safe spaces. Okay, and welcome to January 2020. Happy New Year. Yes, this is the Jim's Table Topics inaugural 2020 show. The year 2020, not 2020. But at any rate, welcome to 2020. And I hope you had a great Christmas season and good New Year's celebrations. And now, like we talked about, we really need to focus in on some of the, education is going to be the key this year. We need to figure out what the narrative is and what they're trying to teach us and what they're not telling us or teaching us. So I think that's the key right there, is what's not happening. So with that, that's what our focus today is going to be. We'll start with today. This show will be named aptly. What will it be named? Safe Spaces and Free Speech, or Free Speech / Safe Spaces. Can they coexist? Came across some videos. We'll show a trailer about this. There's a movie that came out last year called No Safe Spaces, and it talks about free speech, safe spaces, and there's a lot of different. And it's put out by Adam Carolla and Dennis Prager. They teamed together because they think the same, and they're trying to get the truth out. And unfortunately, because of that, they've been blocked on all the medias. I think Dennis Prager, his website has been PragerU, and they've been apparently he's been what do you call it? Blocked off of YouTube and this tube and that tube because of social media, because they confuse the issues between hate speech and regular speech and what we're talking about. How can we have a normal discussion if they keep changing the words and the terms? That's what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn all about that. In fact, PragerU, which I came across, hopefully you'll go to the website, Prager, Prager, U as in university.com, and go there, and you'll see that website pop up a few times on the videos, because I got like 6 videos from them, and they're all from PragerU, and they have all sorts of different professors. Okay, and it's interesting on their take on what you've been taught and what you haven't been taught and what the heck is going on. So that's what we're going to focus on. That's what we're going to talk about. My job here is to just put the information out. I'm trying to, educate you, give you some more information that you're not getting from the mainstream media, Hollywood. Your educational systems are certainly failing us, and all the other institutions that are all supporting the narrative, the socialist narrative, as you'll see when we get into it. But again, I've only got 1 hour, and it's the same, so I do 1 hour a month of this show. So this same show will be showed, 4 times 4, 16 times over the month. And we get to hear the liberal narrative 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's not real truth. I mean, in fact, that's what I wanted to talk about, the fact that over the holiday, Christmas, they usually play the Sound of Music. And so
I've seen it when I was a kid, and I've never seen the whole thing in a while, so I stopped watching from the beginning to the end, and it was like, wow, wow. See, that's how it works. The Von Trapp family, he was a big war hero, and when the Germans took over Austria, they forced you to either do what they did or they'd take you out. So, and the town leaders of whatever town, Strasbourg or whatever town that the Von Trapp people lived in, all the town leaders said, you got to fall in line, you got to do what they say, and a lot of people, the dissidents, said, we're Austrians, we're not Germans, and they came and took Austria over without firing a shot, and they used their brown shirts, and you'll see how they turned Austrian citizens into brown shirts, which basically they turned in their friends and relatives and family if they weren't following the Nazis, protocols. And if they were speaking against the protocols of the Nazis, they would turn them in. And that's what our green shirts. We don't have brown shirts now. We have green shirts under the guise of environmental and everything else. We've trained, as Hitler said, give me one generation. We've trained them in our colleges, high schools, we haven't taught them our real history, as you'll see when we get there, but it's just scary. So I really ask you to sit down, put your seatbelt on. It's going to be a rough ride learning what we should have known and what we should have been taught, but we weren't. So sorry if I get a little riled up, but hey, I've only got so much time, and I know I speak a little fast, but try to keep up. Okay, it reminds me. I don't know if I can say this. Is this one? I saw a T-shirt once, and I thought it was pretty funny. It said, on the front, it said Boston Bomb Squad. And on the back, it said, if you see me running, try to keep up. Okay, so, without further ado, I don't know, is that a hate crime? I don't know. But at any rate, before we get into the fake news and our fake education and these things that need to be relearned, we'll get into the good news section. Okay, so I'm going to spend about 5 minutes on the good news. I've already wasted 6 minutes blithering on about what the show is going to be about. So again, I mean, as you all know by now, if you've been watching the show, at least, I'm a Christian. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth, all things visible and invisible, and just as the Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed, that's the classic belief system of the Christian, the Jesus, God-fearing Christian. So, with that in mind, I do have the Bible. I'm just going to read what the Bible says about governments, because that's what the good news is that Jesus came and died for our sins. But it was predicted that the man of God would come and the government would be on his shoulders, and so the governments are ordained by God Himself to punish the wicked and to reward the righteous. Okay, so I guess the question is, are we doing that? Is our government doing that? Is Venezuela government doing that? Are the governments doing that? So let's just read what the Bible actually says about rewarding the righteous and punishing the wicked. Okay, so this is in Romans chapter 13, right from the beginning. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For the rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Then do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Therefore you must be subject, not only because of wrath, but also for conscience' sake. For because of this you also pay taxes, for they are God's ministers attending continually to this very thing. So, taxes. Render therefore Render therefore to all their due, taxes to whom taxes are due, custom to whom customs, fair to whom fair, honor to whom honor. Owe no one anything except to love one another, for he who loves another has fulfilled the law. Okay, I think I kind of tell you that every show, that, God loves you, I love you, and, that's the basis of the Christian faith. So we need to operate from that's the foundational grassroots right there, in love, in God's Christian love of love. Love is patient, love is kind, love is understanding, love doesn't boast, love doesn't, it's all there in Corinthians 13. You hear it every time you go to a wedding, and that's what we're talking about. That's what love really is, patient, kind, doesn't keep a record of wrongs and rights, and well, it's all written right there. So, again, it's very simple, and so when people try to confound things, then you know you're in trouble. So you need to have some standards and some basic foundational beliefs and truths to operate in your life, whether it's your home life, your work life, personal life, business life, spiritual life, your government life. As a citizen, we have many hats that we wear as people. Father, brother, mother, sister, aunt, and community leaders, Girl Scout troop leaders, Boy Scout troop leaders, baseball leaders, and we do all this stuff. So I'm just saying that it's good to have a good basic foundation, and then know that God's in charge, and that there are certain things, as the ye old Serenity prayer says, let me accept the things I can't change and change the things I can change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so that's what we need to focus on. What can and what can't we do, and what should we be doing? So, okay, without further ado, we're going to put the good news never on the shelf, but we're going to just stop here, and then we're going to switch gears and go to the fake news. So without any further ado, we're going to go to the Prager videos here. There's going to be 3 of them real quick. Well, two from the safe space and free speech, and then 1 from Prager, and it will all be self-evident as we get going. So without further ado, to the tape.
It's an honor to speak in front of you all. Do we get to keep these pads? You should be able to share ideas without being fired from your job or shouted down.
If there's a fundamental American right, it's to say what's on your mind.
I believe the Ten Commandments video contains references to murder.
I have a solution. I will re-release it as the 9 Commandments.
No university should ever create a safe space. If you want to feel good, get a massage.
Isn't it spooky that we're having this discussion? If you have any spark of individualism in you, they will come to destroy that too.
Now, is that so rough? Do we need $600,000 of security to hear all of that?
Adam Carolla is with us now. He's one of the guys behind the new documentary, No Safe Spaces. Adam, great to see you. Welcome to the show again.
Thanks for having me back.
You've raised $300,000 for the movie. I'm told that if you get together $500,000, you've got an investor who will match the whole lot. Is that accurate?
That is correct. So if we get to 500, we get to $1 million.
That sounds good. And that's enough to get this show on the road and get it launched across the country?
Yeah, and you people should be motivated, because my deal with Dennis Prager is if we don't get to 500,000, I just get whatever was donated, and it goes right up my nose. I'm in Hollywood.
You are a comedian, and I think we should remind our viewers of that fact. Adam, thank you for the smile. Appreciate that. I want to bring to your attention something you might know about already. Evergreen State College. A professor there was harassed for refusing to take part in a day of absence for white people. Now he says he doesn't feel safe teaching. This is the kind of story that you're all about in your movie, No Spaces, correct?
Absolutely. The lunatics have taken over the asylum. I don't really blame the kids. The kids are 19, stoned, out of their minds, had horrible parents, grew up with a steady diet of narcissism. They're just acting out. I blame the faculty. I blame the administration. They're the zookeepers. The kids are just the animals, and they're mixing the hyenas and the leopards and the gazelles and put them all in the same pen.
It's my
pen,
generation.
and they're wondering what's going wrong.
I blame, to some degree, my generation, the baby boom generation. We're the people who staff these colleges. We're the people who make up the people who run the professoriate, or whatever you want to call it. You're right, it's not the kids, it's the professors. But what are you going to do about it?
Well, you're going to do what you do in any situation. You're going to be the adult. When you want to take over the library and paint it the color of the Pan-African flag, the answer is no. Get out, or we're sending in security. It's not stand down campus security, don't get the popo involved, and just go ahead and write your list of demands on this 2-ply toilet paper, and we'll comply with all of them.
I don't associate Hollywood with the kind of movie that you're putting out. You really stand out. I don't know anybody else in Hollywood like you.
Well, that's the reason we're doing it. The reason Dennis Prager and I are making this movie is because Hollywood would not make this movie. So we're going to make this movie. And, you know, there's a lot of folks, I think, who agree with me in Hollywood, but they don't want to get blacklisted. And you rely on other people giving you jobs in this business. It's not really like the aerospace industry where you're a very skilled TIG welder and you can get a job at SpaceX. You have to get jobs from other people, and in Hollywood, you may not get a job if you take these kind of stances.
President Trump, he's in Wisconsin this afternoon. He's pushing apprenticeship programs. One of the things he's going to say is, college is not for everyone. What say you on that?
Well, first off, I think he just likes the apprenticeship programs because it's got the name of his old TV show in it. Number two, that's all I've been saying my entire life. I never went to college. As far as the students at Evergreen go, here's one white guy who took 4 years off. Never even showed up. I'm a hero. I learned carpentry.
What did you do in your 4 years?
I didn't do 4 years. I did 12 years of swinging a hammer. I learned to be a carpenter. Now I'm a journeyman carpenter before I got into comedy. So I tell people all the time, whenever I have Mike Rowe on my show, we go, yeah, it's not for everybody. And you don't want everyone going to college. We need businesses and bridges and infrastructure. We need mechanics. We don't need everyone going to college. And by the way, you see what's happening to these people at college.
Wait a second. I detect an element of snobbery here. It reminds me of living in England in a class-based society. The elites look down on people who work with their hands. I think a similar cultural pattern has emerged in America. The elites look down on blue-collar labor. You're not supposed to make your living with your brain. You're not supposed to make your living with your hands. You're supposed to make your living with your brain. You detect that here?
Absolutely. It's been going on forever. And look, when I left high school, I didn't take the SATs. I never even took an algebra class. Clearly, me and all my buddies from the football team weren't going to college, so we had to go clean carpets or pick up garbage on a construction site. We could have spent that 3 or 4 years in high school training to be an apprentice, pipe carpentry, what have you, and got out of high school and had a decent career. So it's turning a blind eye to what is a real problem, which is half the people aren't going to college. What about them?
When can we see the movie?
I think early 2018, and we're starting shooting now. We already went to University of Northridge, Cal State Northridge, and did an engagement there, and you can see that at nosafespaces.com.
Okay. Any idea that maybe you've had some impact already?
We'd like to hope every day in our own little way.
Okay. Look, I hope you get to the 500,000, because that would get you to $1 million. Best of luck to you, Adam Carolla, and come back and tell us how you're doing as soon as you can.
Do you remember America? If you read about it in a history textbook, You probably learned about a land of oppression, racism, sexism, income inequality, police brutality, and imperial wars. Aside from that, it was a great place. That is how America is portrayed in most American high schools and colleges, in America's media, films, and by its progressive politicians. In the words of filmmaker Michael Moore, America is a nation founded on genocide, built on the backs of slaves, and maintained through the subjugation of women to second-class citizenship and economic disempowerment. Is that America's history? Is that who Americans were and are? George Orwell understood that the most effective way to destroy a people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history. History is much more than a collection of facts. History, and our understanding of it, tells us who we are as a people, in the same way your personal memories and experiences define and shape who you are. Wipe out your memory, and you wipe out your identity. When you raise a generation of Americans to hold their country's past in contempt by exaggerating America's faults and ignoring its triumphs, then they will have no respect for American institutions or the beliefs on which the nation is based. It hasn't always been this way. Until the last few decades, liberals and conservatives alike shared a common understanding of America's origins, its history, and its mission of spreading liberty within America and around the world. They recognized America as the country of the Pilgrims in Jamestown, of the self-evident truths of the Declaration of Independence, of the individual rights won through revolution and secured in the U.S. Constitution. This was the country of the frontier spirit and of almost unlimited possibilities, the country that paid for the sin of slavery with the carnage of its Civil War, of economic dynamism and endless invention, of unparalleled individual opportunity, and the country that defeated fascism and communism in the 20th century. Previous generations took all this for granted and reveled in it. So what changed? Starting in the 1960s, a new so-called progressive narrative took hold that sought not to uplift, inspire, and unite, but to demean, degrade, and divide. It sought to replace the pride of American achievement with shame. Ironically, this all happened while America was making extraordinary strides in civil rights, especially for minorities and women. But anything less than perfection, which can never exist given that every society is composed of flawed human beings, is now considered a total failure, and victims of the past are elevated as an indictment of the present. Along the way, all the classic American touchstones have been undermined. According to the progressive narrative, Christopher Columbus discovered America only to despoil it. The founders wrote the Constitution only to codify their ownership of slaves. The great captains of industry enriched themselves only by exploiting the poor. American traditions that were perfectly acceptable even a few years ago, pledging allegiance to the flag, singing the national anthem, even saying Merry Christmas, have been called into question, mocked, and sometimes banned. The outcome of this new, nonviolent civil war between those who hold America and its history in contempt and those who, without denying its flaws, revere America, will determine the future of the American experiment, the new history we will make. Is America a country that was built by slavery, or a country that overcame and abolished slavery at the cost of 600,000 lives? Is America a country of rampant discrimination, or an accepting people in active pursuit of a more perfect union? Is it a country of grinding exploitation, or a land of limitless opportunity? The time has come to choose. How will you remember America? I'm James Robbins, columnist for USA Today and author of Erasing America for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To help keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Okay, welcome back. So that was it. So yeah, the first tape was James Robbins talking about, no, that's right, we did the trailer in the documentary on the free speech, safe spaces. Okay, so as you can see, it's kind of tough to keep those two things in check. And in the Prager University with James Robin that followed the documentary updates, kind of showed how, what we've been learning hasn't quite been what we should be learning. The history, they're erasing the history and replacing it with other things. And so, I may have to go back and look at that again, because there's a lot of information there, really info-packed, and you need to question as you're looking at these things, well, do I believe this or that, or which one is right, which one is wrong, and, well, how did I learn this, why do I know this, what am I, what's going on here? You need to, to dig a little deeper into some of these issues. I know that most of their shrill, Adam Schiff there and Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and all those people, they count on 6 seconds. You swipe 6 seconds. Oh, that's, Trump bad. Oh, he's impeached. Oh, why is he still president? He's impeached. He'll be gone. No, people don't even understand what the impeachment process is and how it's supposed to work and what it does. So, you need to drill down when, and you can't accept things at face value anymore because there's just too much noise out there. Polarization. It's actually that's by design. They polarized us to the point so that we don't even want, I believe this and I'm not changing my mind. No. I have to look at both sides of the issue. I got to understand both sides before I can make a good decision. How can you make a good decision if you don't have the basic information to know what's this and what's that? It depends on what the issue is. Like, as you can see, all those historical facts are true. You can't deny that, but yet the mainstream media and the educational system and Hollywood and socialist leaders are trying to unlearn us what we should know and teach us stupidity. Okay? So, we really need to stop and think. And just, again, the safe spaces and the, how can they stop? In the guise of safe spaces, they deny free speech. You can't have it both ways. You can't, it just doesn't work that way. And these videos go through the whole dichotomy of, they tell you this, but how can that be if what they're pushing contradicts each other? So free speech and safe spaces just contradict each other. Some of the things I may say may hurt your feelings. I'm very sorry, but I'm not directing them. This is an educational program. I'm not here to, and I am, talk about needing a safe space. When I have to listen to the liberal media, it's not even really liberal media anymore. I got these liberal media. It should be socialist propaganda media, and the socialist propaganda government schools and higher educations. They're not teaching basic Americanism. They're teaching, okay, but at any rate, I have to listen to that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I have to engage the culture that believes all that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week stuff, and I'm going, that offends me. That offends me, but do I go, oh, that offends me, quick, shh, be quiet, I don't want to hear that, no. No, we can't do that. You have to live in the real world, people. You don't like what you hear? Then let's have an intelligent discussion about it. Let's learn why we're different here. If you've ever watched some of those debates, Liz Warren is great for it, and so isn't Joe Biden, and there was someone else too, I forget who it was, but at any rate, they win by, he with the biggest mouth wins. So they're having a debate, and I don't like the way they do the debates because they let them cut each other off. Gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen always, is that the damnest motto? When someone cuts you off and they're rude and they overpower you with their blah 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 and their blah 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 blah. Liz Warren ran all over Jeff Deal. He's trying to talk and give you some information. She said, "That's right," and she just goes off, and everyone, "Yay, Liz! Yay, Liz!" And the moderators just let him go, and it's worse than having a bad umpire at a game when everything goes to the socialist Democrats and nothing goes to the conservative Republicans. Don't get me wrong, like Mitt Romney, they'll cut him slack all day long because he's part of the deep state. So you can be a Republican and be okay as long as you're, you know, a Benedict Arnold, and you know, you're trying to change the Republicans into Democrats, because the Democrats are already socialists, you see. That's the progression. We need to understand what our forms of governments are, from totalitarianism, all government, to anarchy, which is no government, and everything in between. We're supposed to be a republic, a limited, representative, constitutional republic. And that's what we're supposed to be. And we've slid. Okay, we slid from a limited government to a democratic government to a socialist government, and then we're going to go. Socialism just slides right into tyranny and communism and totalitarianism, the whole route. Okay, it's just a fact. You can't escape that. Just go ask anyone in Venezuela. In fact, one of the women that's going to talk today is oh, I missed her. Oh. There were so many to pick from, but she was from Venezuela. She went through this whole thing of how they just voted themselves in. They didn't know what they were doing. All the way from Hugo Chavez and I think she said that, you know, that when Hollywood elites come to visit you and praise what you're doing, you know you're in trouble. Your country's in trouble, because that's what they were doing. They were praising Hugo Chavez. He died, and then Maduro took over. Holy moly. So now they're socialists. And they got no toilet paper, they got no water, and if you say anything bad about the country, they'll come and drag you away, and you know, if you ever see the light of day again, you're lucky, I guess. But that's socialism, it's brute force. Socialism is brute force, okay? We have democratic socialism now, which is, you know, it's just, we're hiding the brute force. We're just gonna bully you and make you feel bad about not being with us, as opposed to, you know. So, again, that's, you know, it's like the hokey pokey. That's what it's all about. It's all about control. Okay? They like you to vote as long as you vote for them. They just, you know, they don't want you to think. I mean, in fact, that's what Thomas Jefferson said. You know, the worst, what is it? The biggest threat to our form of government is an uninformed voter. So when we have people voting and they don't even know what the heck they're voting for, then that's where we are. That's why we are where we are today. Okay? And this whole Trump phenomena, I just read something I thought was pretty funny. They said, you know, Trump said, they had a little picture of Trump saying, they're not coming after me. They're coming after you. But I'm here to protect you guys. I'm trying to stop them from getting you. That's why they got it. Once they get rid of me, then they'll get you. Okay? And that's what's going to happen in Virginia. Coming up, that'll be Virginia. Second Amendment, gun control is going to be a big issue come 2020. That's my prediction for 2020. But okay, I got to slow it down. Run out of time. I've got, 20 seconds to tell you that we got 3 more videos coming up. Antonia Ankerford, she's going to talk about racism, and Michael Knowles is going to talk about word control, and David Rubin's going to talk about why he used to be a liberal and now he's not. So with that, let's go to the tape.
I recently discovered something startling about myself. It turns out that I'm a racist, sexist, misogynist. This came as quite a shock to me. How did this happen? As a person of color, a single woman with a graduate degree who grew up poor in a home without a father, I had a clear political path to follow, and I followed it. I voted for Barack Obama, twice. After all, we share the same skin color. His father was from Africa, mine was too. What other reasons did I need? I was inspired to see a black man rise to the highest office in the land. I believed his ascent would herald a new beginning, a new era of racial healing and harmony. We would finally have that frank discussion about race that everyone always talks about. I was also inspired by his wife. I was thrilled to see such a strong, opinionated black woman take the national stage. But then something happened. Actually, several somethings. I realized there was a big contradiction in my own life. I considered myself a free thinker, but I was thinking exactly what I was supposed to. I decided to start asking questions. I belonged to several campus feminist groups. I was even teaching feminism to inner city girls. Part of that teaching involved making the case for abortion. These girls needed to know that they had the right to make decisions about their own bodies. Surely, I thought, that's empowerment. But one day I asked myself, isn't it men who benefit most from consequence-free sex? Doesn't that give them even more power over women? And of course, abortion certainly doesn't empower the woman it prevents from ever being born. When I began to ask my other feminist friends how they reconcile these issues, they just got angry. I was called anti-woman, even by progressive men. But I'm not anti-woman, I thought. I am a woman. I just don't want to be a weak one. I want to be strong, like Michelle. At about the same time, while I was a student at the University of Texas at Dallas, the UT Austin Department of African Diaspora Studies released a statement in which they said, and I quote, African Americans are disproportionately affected by the saturation of our society by firearms. We demand that firearms be banned in all spaces occupied by Black people on our campus. Wait a second, I thought. Why would you want to ban firearms only in Black areas? Doesn't that mean that you either think Black people are more dangerous than other people or less worthy of protection? These questions did not endear me to my progressive friends. I was called a race traitor, even by white people. But I'm not anti-Black. I am Black. I just want to be safe, like Barack. I realized I didn't have a good answer. I only had more questions. Like, why were Blacks doing so poorly in cities that had been run by Democrats for decades? Was it racism and sexism that was holding people back? Or was it something else? The more questions I asked, the less popular I became. But here's the funny thing. I started to feel better about myself. I decided that the very definition of empowerment required me to take responsibility for my own life. I wasn't going to be anyone's victim, which meant I had to protect myself. So I bought a gun. I started to advocate for gun rights. That cost me more friends. I joined the pro-life movement and walked in the March for Life. More friends. Gone. Then I crossed the line. I voted Republican, the party that views me as an empowered individual, able to shape my own destiny, not as a member of a victim group. And that's how I became a racist, sexist, misogynist. I'm Antonia Okafor for Prager University.
Do you believe in free speech? Do you believe that people should be judged by their character, not their skin color? Do you believe in freedom of religion? If you believe these things, you're probably not a progressive. You might think you're a progressive. I used to think I was. My show, The Rubin Report, was originally part of the Progressive Young Turks network. Progressives struck me as liberals but louder. Progressives were the nice guys. They looked out for the little guy. They cared about women and minorities. They embraced change. In short, who wouldn't want to be a progressive? But over the last couple of years, the meaning of the word progressive has changed. Progressives used to say, I may disagree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. Not anymore. Banning speakers whose opinions you don't agree with from college campuses, that's not progressive. Prohibiting any words not approved of as politically correct, that's not progressive. Putting trigger warnings on books, movies, music, anything that might offend people, that's not progressive either. All of this has led me to believe that much of the left is no longer progressive, but regressive. This is one of the reasons I've spent so much time on my show talking about the regressive left. This regressive ideology doesn't judge people as individuals, but as a collective. If you're black or female or Muslim or Hispanic or member of any other minority group, You're judged differently than the most evil of all things, a white Christian male. The regressive left ranks minority groups in a pecking order to compete in a kind of oppression Olympics. Gold medal goes to the most offended. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream that his children would be judged by their character and not their skin color was a liberal idea, but these days it's not a progressive ideal. And what about religious freedom, the idea that no one else can tell you what you have to believe? Surely progressives still support that basic right. Well, not so much. I'm a married gay man, so you might think that I appreciate the government forcing a Christian baker or photographer or florist to act against their religion in order to cater, photograph, or decorate my wedding. But you'd be wrong. A government that can force Christians to violate their conscience can force me to violate mine. If a baker won't bake you a cake, find another baker. Don't demand that the state tell him what to do with his private business. I'm pro-choice, but a government that can force a group of Catholic nuns, literally called the Little Sisters of the Poor, to violate their faith and pay for abortion-inducing birth control can force anyone to do anything. That's not progressive, that's regressive. Today's progressivism has become a faux moral movement hurling charges of racism, bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, and a slew of other meaningless buzzwords at anyone they disagree with. The battle of ideas has been replaced by a battle of feelings, and outrage has replaced honesty. Diversity reigns supreme as long as it's not that pesky diversity of thought. This isn't the recipe for a free society, it's a recipe for authoritarianism. For these reasons, I can no longer call myself a progressive. I don't really call myself a Democrat either. I'm a classical liberal, a free thinker, and as much as I don't like to admit it, defending my liberal values has suddenly become a conservative position. So if you think people should be able to say what they think without being punished for it, that people should be judged by their behavior, not their skin color, and that people should be able to live the way that they want to live without government interference, then there's not much left on the left for you. I'll keep trying to explain that to progressives until I'm totally left out. I'm Dave Rubin of The Rubin Report for Prager University.
What's in a word? Why does it matter whether we call someone who breaks the law to enter the country an illegal alien or an undocumented immigrant? What's the difference between a Christmas tree and a holiday tree? It's just semantics, right? Yes. And no. It is just semantics, but semantics means the meaning of words. Words exist so that we might discriminate one thing from another. Without words, we have chaos. And it starts with the first words. A baby says mama to distinguish mommy from daddy. Words shape how we think. They color how we view the world. No one understands this better than the left. They are the masters of words, because they know that words matter. The left has a special gift for euphemisms, soft words selected to sugarcoat harsh realities so as to make those harsh realities easier for us to swallow. But these soft words are insidious. Their sole purpose is to deceive. Race discrimination in hiring and college admissions is refashioned as the much nicer sounding affirmative action. Who would ever oppose an affirmative action? Global warming, which can be measured and challenged, has morphed into climate change, which means essentially nothing because the climate is always changing. When Barack Obama became president, George Bush's war in Afghanistan suddenly transformed into the far less ominous and threatening Overseas Contingency Operation. That's one way to try to end a war, just rename it. The examples are endless. There's a new euphemism every week. In the make-believe world of leftist language, young criminals have become justice-involved youth. Mandates and taxes are individual shared responsibility payments. Government spending becomes an investment. Wanting to keep more of your hard-earned money becomes greed. Taking more of someone else's money is them paying their fair share. Opposing a Democrat in the White House is obstruction. Opposing a Republican in the White House, resistance. In the name of diversity, the left enforces intellectual conformity. It censors opposing views in the name of tolerance. and it labels all non-left views hate speech. Consider the ongoing battle over pronouns, whether to call a man who thinks he's a woman he or she. Very few people in the country suffer from gender confusion, and we should have compassion for those who do. But the left has invested countless funds, time, and energy to make everyone refer to some men as she and some women as he. Why? Is it because the left is so compassionate? Or is it more likely because so much of the left's cultural agenda is about blurring, even denying, the natural distinctions between men and women? Sometimes it's just an adjective that can change or even negate the entire meaning of the word it describes. Take social justice. Justice means getting what you deserve without favor. Social justice means getting what you don't deserve because you are favored. Here's one we hear a lot these days. My truth. Truth is reality regardless of any individual's feelings or perceptions. My truth is how I perceive things regardless of how they really are. And how about same-sex marriage? Let's not get into the politics. Let's just look at the language. Throughout history, in every culture, marriage has been the union of husbands, men, and wives, women. Same-sex marriage is the union of men with men or women with women, but it is most certainly not the union of husbands and wives. Once the phrase same-sex was placed before the word marriage, that is, once the definition of marriage changed, the debate changed. It became about marriage equality. It was suddenly an act of bigotry to limit marriage to husbands and wives. All this manipulation of language has paid off for the left, because whoever controls the words controls the culture. Don't believe me? Just try using plain language instead of the left's politically correct jargon. But be careful. Use the wrong words, and you might lose your job, your home, and your reputation. The culture war is largely a war of words. Right now, the left is winning. You can see the consequences everywhere. In politics, in education, in media. It's time to fight back. We should not cede another syllable. What's in a word? Everything. I'm Michael Knowles, host of The Michael Knowles Show for Prager University.
Okay, welcome back. So that was the rest of the story, okay? You can't make this stuff up. You may have to go back and watch it in slow motion. I gotta watch these things 3 or 4 times and going, how do we miss this stuff? Why did we let these people get away with this stuff? We let the inmates run the asylum because we were too busy being free. As we call it, fat, dumb, and happy. We're living our lives. I never got involved in politics till I was like 40. It wasn't until 1992. I was probably 39 at the time. Yeah, go figure. 39. And I just remember saying, I don't remember my parents, my kids are growing up, and I'm saying, I don't remember my parents having this much, chaos and confusion with government issues, when I was growing up. And I said, why is the government why is this politics so invasive? Because they did it by design. They're forcing people to be polarized in all these issues, as we're learning. All those 3 videos there from PragerU. It's just amazing stuff. And I hope you go to the website and look, and if you can, donate, okay? Because, again, like I said, Prager has, I think they were sued by someone, and now they're suing, YouTube or Google or someone for blocking their content and calling them listing them as hate speech and all this other stuff. Did any of that stuff sound hateful to you? Anything from PragerU? No. Is it contrary to what the liberal socialist narrative is? Yes. And that apparently is a crime, okay? And that's why this whole concept of free speech and safe spaces, no, it's not mutually exclusive. They are totally opposites, and one can't exist. Both can't exist. It's one or the other. You got free speech or safe spaces. Take your pick. We've always had free speech. If you don't like what you hear, either run, go challenge it, have an intelligent, like I said, have a discussion, or run for office, or do something. But yes, and so that's what the Tea Party was designed to do. But unfortunately, this will prove how the mainstream media is not really biased at all. It's propaganda brainwashing, because what they did to the Tea Party, from Hollywood to the mainstream media or the fake news, and our leaders, socialist, globalist leaders, and all the NGOs. An NGO is a non-government organization, which people think that they're government organizations. They go, oh yeah, but they're not. And even if they were, it doesn't make any difference. What are they peddling? They're peddling hate. They're peddling conservative hate, Christian hate, and love the socialist global agenda. That's what it's doing. So what that whole process did, and the IRS was used as a weapon against the Tea Party. They brought them, they slowed down all their IRS paperwork. They couldn't incorporate. They couldn't do their paperwork, and they couldn't, you have to, have all your paperwork done. This is America. You got to file all your papers, and they just put them aside and didn't do it. That Lois Lerner should have been arrested, put in jail. But if the IRS did that to a socialist organization, oh, my lord, what would happen? So this is why the double standard. And so what they did to the Tea Party, and so now anyone who was a Tea Party person was afraid to say, well, I'm a Tea Party person, because it was so vilified and demonized that you were the worst person in the world, you were a deplorable, hateful person. And so now that's what they're doing to Trump. But now he's fighting back. See, the Tea Party, we didn't get it. We didn't know how to, the war of words, as that video said. We lost the war of words, but we're on the right side. But like they say, what's the old saying that says that the lie goes around the world twice, and the truth is still putting his pants on. Okay, so the media jumps the gun, and it's all one-sided. Have you noticed it? Can you just stop back and be objective and look at it and go, like even the FBI, the Barr report and whatever those new reports, not the Mueller report, because they're all criminals, and so now they're all screaming to try to hide all this stuff, but basically they made 17 mistakes. How could they be random mistakes if they were all against Trump? Every mistake was against Trump and for the socialists and the deep state. Those aren't mistakes. Those are calculated risks, and those are crimes that are committed. And they know it, and they all know it, and they're all wondering who's going to take the fall. So they're all going to start turning on each other. And I can't wait. But as someone once called into Howie Carr, they said, can somebody arrest anybody in Washington, D.C.? Does anybody ever pay for their crimes down there? That swamp is so deep and thick, it's pathetic. But we keep sending the same people in. We can't. We have to, what's his name? That Democratic, businessman, Steyer, whatever his name is. Oh, I got a platform and we're going to term limits. You're never going to get term limits in because well, look at Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all those guys that, they abuse their term limits. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, you got to go. But they only want the people that are against the socialist, globalist agenda out. And they use all these buzzwords, again, just like we learned on the tape. It's a war of words. Do you understand what they're really saying? Do you understand what the goal is? The goal is to put you in subjugation. You're going to lose all your rights. Don't give your rights away to them. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got all wound up. It's 2020. It's going to be election year. There's going to be a whole lot of propaganda, a whole lot of spin, a whole lot of mistruths, and it's all coming at you. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I like that little CNN cartoon. It showed you there, Spock and the Star Trek people. Yeah, the CNN, the brainwashing machine back in the 21st century. Well, yeah. Wake up and smell the tyranny, people. That's all I can tell you. You can go on to La La Land, but I'm telling you, we need to focus in on what's truth, what's real, and what is the American way. There is no, they have DNA tests. I got a DNA kit for Christmas for my granddaughter. So, yeah, I sent them my spit. They told me that I was, I'm a European, Polish, and Italian, and wherever, all those little places that I'm half Polish and half Italian. So they apparently they can tell what country you come from depending on your ancestry and blah blah blah. But America, like we all said, America's a nation of immigrants. But they have one trait that you can't buy, sell, or steal. Or maybe you can. I think that has been stolen and bought. But it's that American spirit of freedom, justice, and the American way, of rugged individualism where I can do what I want and that's my freedom until, your freedom ends when you start, forcing other people to do, now you're stepping on their freedom. So that's what socialism is all about. It's the hokey pokey. They want you to bend to their will. You can't say that, you can't do this. And, that's just, laws are one thing. No, like the 10 Commandments, no killing, no lying, no stealing, no cheating, no this, no that, no that. But they come up with these commandments of, you must wear your seatbelt, you must wear your license, you must do this, you must do that. So when you take all the can't do this, can't do that, must do this, must do that, actual freedom bandwidth is getting pretty thin. And so is it my time. I'm out of time. I'm so sorry. I've only got 1 hour against thousands of hours of this stupidity that I have to endure. Lord have mercy on us all. Don't forget the good news. God loves you. And look more for the spiritual solutions and not these polarizing political stupidity solutions that they're trying to sell because they're wrong, wrong, wrong. See you next month. See you in February 2020. Good night.
Again, thanks for watching Jim's Table Topics, January 2020, Free Speech or Safe Spaces. A lot of information in this show. It was, I'm going to have to go back and watch it myself because they use those words that are tricking us, but we got to rise above it. So it's all about education. We have to retrain ourselves. I did. I started a couple of decades ago, but I finally think I might understand what I've been missing. So again, thanks again for watching, and let's have some subpoena coladas for the real criminals. All right, see you next month. See you in February 2020, and we'll continue the education with what the news and the education don't teach you. You don't see the Trumps and all the things that the good stuff that the president does, and we're going to see what they're not teaching you, starting with the Electoral College next month and a few other topics of high concern this year. Again, thanks for watching January. We'll see you in February. Good night, Dan.